Hello and welcome to TFT Worlds Day 1, Game number 3. Enjoy.
Spread out here, Unstable Rift, Thrash's Sanctum, and the Bandle Cafeteria.
You can tell that this isn't an Earth-centric lobby because
Who are the Earth players by hand? Tell me.
you only have 4 players on Battle Cafeteria.
So for anyone that is not following along with this very simple analysis, if you are an Earth player, you like spatulas, you like emblems, and Bandle Cafeteria, well, it gives you that. Whoever's not an Earth player, you sometimes don't need spatulas at all, so it's really a very polarizing portal. Not going to be the pickup here, will be Thresh's Sanctum instead.
And I really like Thrash's Sanctum, to be honest. I think it's more low impact, it's not as game-changing, not everyone gets a random spatula, which I, for one, am here for, but we're going to be seeing as we move through this. Weijin was a player I called out top of the day as one of the players that I'm really excited to watch here in this tournament. Now, the first 2 games have been kind of here and there, but stat-wise, this guy is a beast.
I'm very interested to see how he actually starts the early game. There are a lot of very interesting options that he can take. He has the MF and the Bell cost. If he so wishes to go that way, maybe he can anchor towards a free cost during the early game.
I think he's anchoring towards these 1 costs instead. Pair of Renekton's, pair of Poppy, the 2 maybe premier tanks right now in Stage 2. Not just because of their own strength as units, but because of what they lead into Demacia. Going to be the most popular comp among Earth players throughout this weekend. And Renekton with Bruisers, but also just general tempo in the early game. There is not a better cost-efficient option than Renekton and Cassiopeia.
And we were already talking about it being the sidekicks that we are, knowing the future and predicting it, everyone sticking to the legends that we expected of them. And I'm really curious to see how that shakes out in the augment choices, knowing that there's so many variety here.
I also want to see how the Ishtal is actually going to affect it. It's a wooden Ishtal. It's probably the most famous one we've seen ever since the game set 9.5 started. So a lot of really interesting variations, but we're going to see with the augments.
With Tex on Lee Sin, we mentioned that he was playing into multicasters in Game 1. He's not only playing into multicasters, of course, there are other reroll options. Maybe Nico, maybe Ishtal is one of those options if he gets the right augments options in this Stage 2. If you really have to snowball that Nico, with Wood especially, you have to have that combat strength early on to have, one of these crazy augment cards like early education, for example.
Looking at Huey being the last one to pick here, rolls away the Ornn item and instead goes for the salvage bin. A nice way to play tempo.
Escort quest for Kess. Very interesting if you can actually get a lead with that augment choice. But Tech Summers playing traditional Lee Sin on the trade sector, trying to get some early upgrades and stay powerful and strong to the Stage 2.
Tech Summer really needs to start compiling the points because he ended up going 5th by like 1 HP, and then I think he ended up on a 6. So the high pressure, high tempo early in hasn't been paying off.
Yeah, not yet, but it might just be that this is the game where it all changes. He has a decent front line with the Bruisers here already assembled. On the other side, though, there is a Samira. Shojin just has been buffed, and she is wrecking through the field.
So key players to watch out for in this Stage 2, because of their augment choices, is, as I mentioned, Kess with Escort Quest. If he cannot snowball this lead and get that gold every single round in Stage 2, ideally going for the 5 win streak, he's essentially an augment down, and he will be in big trouble trying to come back into the game and the tournament, considering his results in the first 2 games already.
Yeah, and now we just need to see. He started winning at least, so that's a good starting point for him. I think the game, maybe the players will start actually trying to play a little more aggro. We've seen in the past how everyone was, 2 or 3 players were starting to push levels quite early.
We're going to also be seeing what emblems they picked up. Beta on the Ionia, Altenahwe on the Demacia, and the known challenger spot coming through for Han Xing. But we will be seeing that board as we are here on the other side. For him, has a BT, has that challenger emblem, and is moving through boards thus far with 100 HP, but so are other people.
And Tex could be leaning maybe into some kind of Nico line. We're seeing his bench there, maybe even Void reroll. For Han Xing, maybe going into Challenger. Aatrox much later into the game. Challenger has been kind of deleted from the meta for a few patches. I'm so happy to see it back to some extent. And we've heard, especially the Asian regions, have a very interesting way to play this Challenger comp that seems to get much more results than we've seen in the West.
And we really, challengers are one of those comps that really are great for this specific format. They actually just want to go like say top 2, top 3, maybe actually hanging out and steamrolling in our entire lobby. But that's a really amazing start. And a Fury 2 just to start us, gonna be great for Hong Liang, which he doesn't have the challenger pad, but still in a Fury 2.
Doesn't have a challenger's pat, that's another player, but he also has the Twisted Fate. Him and Ace both. Those were the 2 players coming into this World Championship from China that we were looking for, that we were saying those are the players that are heavy hitters, and both of them going for the Twisted.
And the best part is Frodan saying top of show that China was ahead of the meta by not playing Twisted Fate, and now we've gone full circle. Somehow they're back on Twisted Fate. So very curious to see how that pans out the rest of this day 1. Altenawe, game 1, I've seen rumors across social media. He hit 9 Demacia and was able to win that game 1, get those 8 points. He's on Demacia emblem once again. We'll see how the stage 3 and 4 pans out. His augment choices, especially if he can find a second Demacia emblem, he might be the boogeyman at the end of this game.
There's a saying that we have in LATAM, which is Altenawe played it really well. Whenever he high rolls, he says, I put myself in a position to high roll. So,
yeah. Of course, just hit. We have that too.
very humble.
Just gotta play the game right and challenge or summon your wins.
Nico on the carousel could have gone to Tex if he is trying to play that line. It is instead Weijin picking up the Nico and the Cloak in this case. Stage 2 always going to be so relevant for some of those 3-cost units, but maybe also for those components to try and finish off these items, especially if you're trying to win streak the rest of this stage.
I do
And
like.
here's Kess.
Oh, I do like that Weishan was hyped up about stealing the Nico, so he knew what he was about to. And I like what Kess is really doing. He's on a good win streak, protecting the Samira, and look at the bench. 2 Nikos already. He also can go
Keeping the door
towards that
open.
position. Bastions is also an overlooked comp to look out, but it can be a good front line for a bit.
I love watching Escort Quest in Stage 2, the Get Down Mr. President comp, trying to do anything you can. The Jin bullets, you have to get in front of them, take the hit on your front line ideally, and you get the 3 gold every time you do win. So it is really a comp that even the stats are inflated because very good players do not pick this augment unless you already have a very strong strat with lots of upgrades, and that's maybe the case here for Kesh as well.
But it is looking like it might get close here. The Orianna has been buffed a couple patches ago. She does do significant amount of damage, and that will be it. It was
Dummy,
not
come
enough.
on, wake up, Dummy, she's coming. Oh no.
We couldn't save the president, not this time.
The automatons are not quite there yet. We have to get to the next level of dummy, the robotic AI dummies that can actually fend off for themselves.
And he made the pivot. As soon as we pivoted out of him, he took out the comp. He ended up playing the Nico and the
I wonder.
Emilio.
I
And I see Hong Liang. I see the Pandora side. I see the RFC and the Giant Slayer already slammed. I mean, this is sad.
Detective Pie Hat, please help our viewers out who might not have played the last few metas in TFT.
This is one of the comps that you have seen a lot in the past, which is basically you grab a Nyla or Neela.
Neela?
I start corrected. A Neela
No
with
worries.
a lot of bows. You want one, maybe 2 rapid fire cannons, 1 Giant Slayer, and as a Sejuani, you just top things up and you have a lot of damage.
Yeah, and that is basically the alternative to the all-hated multicasters that people were running with the Twisted Fate back then, the Neela, the Bruisers. Now Bilgewater has gotten a little bit better, so that makes Neela even stronger and is definitely a good choice to run if you are in that Twisted Fate line. Granted, nobody else is going for it. It's
Oh
gonna make it much
no,
easier.
the dummy again. It was so
No!
close. 2 fights in a row. So unfortunate for Kess. Very strange Stage 2, not a single player able to get that 5-win streak going into Krugs.
I do want to point out the first loot of Fresh Sanctum. A small duplicator. There's a couple players that are actually rerolling for 2-star, 3-star, 2 codes and 3
Just
codes.
say, say Tex. It's
Okay,
okay.
maybe, okay, Tex as well. I'm not biased at all. No.
But Kess, unfortunately, that's 6 gold loss among those last 2 fights. That, of course, snowballs with the compounding interest into much more gold loss. So really, it's the slimmest of margins. We're laughing here, but Kess definitely is not laughing. It can definitely impact most of his Stage 3 and how much he can snowball his lead.
Some nice 3 costs coming through here for Altenawe. Is on that Demacia line, gets a Sona airdropped. It's definitely something you are going to be happy about as Krugs are finished. Thankfully, no one is weak enough to lose to them. I'm happy we're not in that kind of patch.
I mean, at some point, maybe later down the line, I do want to point out two things. First, how Altinawe, he's actually only 80 HP with this board. It's a very strong board, early game. A Cassiopeia with a lot of a really good item, trying to just preserve the HP. And also Beta. Beta is the only player who actually 5-streak, even either win streak or lose streak. And I do want to see how he actually recovers from that.
He is going to be on the Ionia emblem. He's also one of the Ancient Archives players from Stage 2. So I assume he will be rolling at 3-5, trying to roll on 7 and try and stabilize his board and preserve some HP. He has a Tome on his bench, so the chance to, at 3-5, roll down, hit a few upgrades, hit a few of the correct emblems here, he can become a win-streaking player in Stage 4.
And that's always so interesting to me on like how long are players willing to greed a tome, because that could be an instant upgrade, and sometimes you have the tome on your bench and you wait and you tailor and you wait and you tailor and you pop that tome rounds and rounds later and it's not what you wanted.
Gonna have 8 options, or 8 traits tailored rather, but we're gonna get Silver Augment for this stage 3-2. Anything that jumps to mind here, comes to your eyesight here, Pi Hat, from the options?
I'm still trying to find out, but I do see Hong Lian, the guy one of the players who had the Pandora's bench, the one who was playing Nila, how you branching out. So he's gonna keep the emblem on his bench, probably just ramping it up, is trying to reforge it as much as possible until they find either Freljord or Bilgewater.
He found a Bruiser emblem. He popped it instantly, and that's so good with the Nila. Hong Lian just speed running it.
And one key thing to know with emblems and TF is that craftable emblems only reroll into other craftable emblems and uncraftable into other uncraftable emblems. So there is much more control than you think. It's not that wide fan of options that you might be expecting from Pandora's items.
And as Meg said, it's a very good starting point. It looks like he doesn't want to play it. He's just reforging the Bruiser spam.
And like Hannah was saying, he knows exactly what's in the pool. He will have to wait for maybe a longer time than necessary now, but without Pandora's, you have that option. You can do it. You know you got an emblem that is going to reforge into uncraftables. Is going to be a good and easy time. I do think, though, we need to check in with Weijin, because stationary support, red buff, very generic up there, but I do want to know what's going on. 96 HP and a win streak is always something we need to check. And looking at the board, ooh, I miss CZ Rot so much, you guys. It was one of my favorites.
Well, you have both CZ Rot and a dummy, the perfect combination. Not so much for Kess into those earlier rounds, but here, adding some extra frontline, it does do something actually in terms of preserving some of that time for the backline to start ramping up, especially that MF with 3 items stacked on her already.
I mean, this dummy has a friend, and they're actually
Many friends.
Yeah, a couple of really tanky friends given just enough time for Miss Fortune. As we were saying at the start of the show, Miss Fortune is a unit that was underrated for a long time, but now she's starting to pop up more as a mid lane, as a mid game carry.
Well, she's in the mid lane now, Pi.
Well,
so.
yeah, in a way.
Take credit, take the
We'll
credit
take
there.
it. Yeah, she's a really interesting carry too, because due to the Bilgewater, she has this kind of wide area damage that often allows you to get that backline access as well. So I loved when Bilgewater was a thing, sue me. I loved playing MF, and I'm so happy she's back.
Tex takes a hit. Huey also takes a hit, but is still among that middle of the pack. And Beta actually wins this last fight, doesn't lose even more HP now. He has 2 Ionia emblems off of that Tome. He has the chance to go 7 now. We know how many 4 costs are a key part of this Ionia comp. Has to find that Shen, has to find that Zaya especially, and has to try and stabilize. He's at 40 HP already.
I mean, at least he hit the hit. Yeah, at least he's gonna have 6 Ionia for a long time. At least he's very stable. We need to see the roll down in the part of Beta. And Tex, what do you have to say about Tex?
He's on Void Reroll. I think these are one of the options he has with his Lee Sin playstyle. His game plan is revolving around rolling for 2 and 3 costs for the most part. This Void comp especially really thrives with unit upgrades because it makes the Rift Herald that much stronger.
Checking in with Beta here, we were kind of hoping that this would be a level 7 roll down. We are on level 6 instead, and we are looking for those units. You can see the copies of the Zed already. This is what we have locked ourselves into, and that's good news for players like Tex, who you were mentioning, because that's taking units out of the pool of the 2 and 3 costs, which is going to be good.
But it's a little bit of the low rolls. I think he just hit the Ash too. This is a comp that has been on the surface every now and then. It's a very stable comp towards the mid game. but you need to hit quite early-ish, and you're on level 6, 10 gold only with that Ash
Yeah.
too, so...
This is really not where you want to be. If you're level 7, if you're, on Zaya pair, okay, but Ash 2, it might do enough right now, especially with the power of 6 Ionia as a trait, can really carry you through these fights in stage 3, but once everyone else says, hey, it's time for me to roll down, it's time for me to spike my board, I do not think this Ash will be able to fight.
Uh-oh, is what then gonna happen? Hopping over, though, to Tex. We were talking about him, and the potential Void reroll does have 4 Voids on board, and if we're looking at the board, yes, this is probably where we're headed, with a little bit of flexibility in the backline there. It does have that Statics and that Rabadon, which I assume is going to go towards a Kaisa later.
Yeah, most likely. I think this is a comp that she's just gonna play towards a 6 Void version. Try to get the Risk Herald to just do a lot of really big headbutts. How do you call it back when it was...
Zinedine Seralt.
Zinedine. Oh, I was more of a Heraldine Zidane.
There's a lot of wordplay.
It depends on the side of the ocean, because on
I'll
our
take
side,
it.
I like it. But the one thing I will say is that this is a combat during scrims, that throwing out the scrim fact, actually was doing quite well. Ended up top 2 into 3 in a lot of the lobbies. Wasn't really enough to win, but when you just need to farm points, it's a good comp.
Maybe another loss here for Tech and Fordsby. Wins the last fight, loses this one. Is still going to have a lot of gold to roll with at 7 to try and continue, again, finding that 6-point spike, which really needs. But Weijin continues to streak. Red buff is an augment you will be seeing picked very often throughout the entire tournament. Gives you so much combat strength for a silver augment.
And Honglian is going to join him up there now, also on fire as we enter the Wolves. And you can see the gold of our players, some of them deciding to rack up coins. Hansing, notably, is on 62.
Ace, last game, also a TF player from China, was playing into this strategist MF line. Suddenly we see Hong Lian deciding not to play Bruiser. He didn't have a Bruiser star, which I get as well.
Yeah.
Playing into, I think, once again, the same exact comp that Ace was going for. Is this the Chinese meta read for this tournament? Could it be the absolute priority to try to play for this Nyla MF duo carry?
It does feel like it. This is not the variation you usually look when you're seeing double RFC, but now we're seeing the roll-down of Alt, and now he also has a Slayer spat on top of the Massive spat. He needs to actually...
There's a Mordekaiser.
It's a Mordekaiser. That's what I was going to say. He needs to find the Mordekaiser. He got it. He's stable-ish. We're going to see if the Mordekaiser is already quite contested, so maybe it's not enough to stabilize, we'll see.
Yeah, the big thing is going to be that Jarvan now being itemized there last second is only a J41, but is maybe enough to do some damage to that backline there, knock him down, pin him, and it will hit the Misfortune, it will hit the Kaisa, if only for a brief second. I think with the way that Weijin has put together this board, there is not much you can do to take it down right now. The Misfortune 2 was hit right before this round, and she's doing a lot, but not enough for the Mordekaiser and the Quinn.
And that might be a hand of justice diff. He was maybe considering trying to hold out on slamming this item, trying to greed for the QSS on the Mordekaiser instead. He's currently 8th place in the HP standings. He felt the pressure from the rest of the lobby, slams the Hodge on the Quinn. Gonna have the Radiant DB on the Quinn, I assume, for the rest of these fights.
Golden augments coming through for our players. You can see some of them insta-picking their legend choices. Of course, something like a final grab bag is always nice to have, but some of them taking a little bit longer. Notably, Tech Summer, of course, doesn't want the Lee Sin one.
I do want to point out Kess's choice. He was then the one who ended up playing towards Nico reroll. We were wondering who was going to be the guy who picked the comp, and he ended up getting a Targon Hard, which is something you don't see as much usually, because Targon isn't really a very chaseable trade, but in this very specific combo, Nikon Soraka, back in the day used to do a lot of damage, and now it's doing the same thing.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Beta is still on 5 ashes. He's sitting at 10 gold. He's level 7. I think he's pivoted off the idea of only trying to focus on the ash and the set. Trying to push for some board strength now by going 7, and then trying to roll on 7 to hit everything else because he's so far behind already, but I don't think it's going to go well. He's streaking for now, but until when will this streak last?
Huey on the other side is coming through with 3 items on a Kaisa and a Nasus too, which is a massive tanky unit. It is holding down the fort for just a little while. Is not going to be enough. Beta able to build out the win streak, now on fire. On the back of that, maybe has a chance to grow this board, to find that Xayah, to go more into the Ionia even.
But there's some hope for Beta, as we saw in the first loot of the Sanctum was the duplicator. So if Beta, there's a Xayah pair, if he can actually do stabilize for a long time, maybe even find the couple ashes, he'll have the duplicator and the guarantee for a free star.
And Honglian did pick up Slayer Crest as his last option. Healing Orbs for Huey, a very good combat element that might help him stay relatively healthy in this stage 4. Mana Burn for Tech Summers, though. We're seeing the return of ZZ-Ra, we're seeing the return of Shroud as well. So this game is kind of the highlight for all of the support items that, of course, all our Rat viewers know and love.
I personally do. I don't know why you're looking at me like that, but I'll take it. I'll herald it. Kess on the other side with the Bastions does have the Soraka nearly together, does have 6 copies of the Nico, if I'm seeing correctly, but that's not enough. The comp needs the Nico 3 to come around to really be strong, and you can see why. She falls, she falters, and Kess does with her.
And Hanxing is doing quite well. The challenger play already has an Aatrox with a challenger span, as you were saying, Panda, at the start of the game. That's a very strong comp.
It's a very strong comment. What you're really thinking in the back of your mind, the moment you're picking Challenger Emblem as your game plan, you're thinking, I hope I can find the right units in Stage 4, in Stage 5, especially as early as this. Aatrox going to be the best holder for Challenger Emblem in this 9.5 mid set. And finding him so early is going to be so relevant for a player that was relatively low in HP, now will hopefully claw back up in the standings and try and find himself in the middle of the pack as we go into Stage 5.
Speaking of players that need to claw back, I'm a little bit worried for Altanahwe. I'll be honest with you guys, with how many players are going into that Slayer line, into that Mordekaiser line, something we were talking about top of show as well. I feel like Altanahwe is currently holding hands with all these guys, and it's a little bit like that Spider-Man meme where they're just all pointing at each other, and I think Altanahwe might fall here if he's not able to find that Mordekaiser too.
I was looking at the bench, and maybe there was an out, since maybe Queens, this Queen isn't that contested right now. It would have been a way to actually stabilize, but he only has 3 Queens, and that's not enough.
This is a sign of a player that knows to play to his outs, knows to play into what he's hitting, what the game is trying to lead him into, which is some amount of board strength, maybe off of a Zona 3, even if he only has this shift, she can help further everyone up with the attack speed onto both the Quinn and the Mordekaiser. He has the duplicator as well, which is the key thing here. He needs to lean into something that he can duplicate, and that will be the Quinn for this fight. Is maybe going to be close to winning, but this Mordekaiser doing so much on the opposite side, just barely. Mordekaiser stays alive. The God of Death does God of Death things.
The J4 for Altanahwe in this fight is literally the MVP. The amount of cataclysms he got out, the units he found was perfect. So good. If Altanahwe can continue this, it's going to be really good. But speaking of things that are good, we kind of have to mention the things that are bad. There's an Ashe coming through. It's 6 copies of Ashe by now. We're finding the Karma. We don't really have Karma items.
Any items? Oh, yes.
All
items
right.
have arrived.
But you're not doing Last Whisper Karma, at least.
No.
Are you sure? Didn't you want to cook Pie Hat?
That's a little too much even for me. But maybe now with a different carry, now that Ashe, he just aborted the mission of playing Ashe reroll, so maybe this is going to be enough? What do you think, mates?
We're going to see. First of all, that J4 misses both of the 80 carries in that backline, which is good news. Feathers fly into the enemy backline. Altanahwe taking another hit. Beta able to hang on, and the lobby is getting closer and closer. Altanahwe down to 19, Beta 23, Kess 30. They're looking down there, and they're trying to kick them off the platform.
At the top end, Weijin has lost some of his momentum, now down to 42 HP, third in the standings. Tech Summers, though, with a very strong tempo game plan of staying as strong as possible, re-rolling for upgrades in stages 2, 3, and 4. Finds himself now at the top of the HP standings. When does he start free-falling? That is the question.
I mean, that's the Lee Sin gameplay for you. I mean, maybe he'll try to stabilize for a long time. This should be enough. I do want to see what Weijin does, because he, as you said, he's been free-falling for now on a 5 low streak. But he has 40 gold in level 8. Maybe he finds any upgrade that actually makes him go a skyrocket.
And this is interesting because he is contesting with Hong Lian. Both of them are on that strategist line. So who's going to come out on top? Are you going to be able to make it? Finds a GP. Maybe is this where we could get them all together? Altanawe upgrades all across the board. That was a Zona. That was the Mordekaiser 2 potential. Needs to sell off some units. Will do exactly that. Finds it. And that is what we were talking about. That could be the saving grace for Altanawe.
And again, some players would not even hold Sonas in that case, saying, hey, I'm going to hit Quinn 3 instead. I'm going to do something else with Duplicator. You have to play to what the game is leading you into. He finds a Sona 3, he finds a Mordekaiser, and he's fighting for his life on the top end there. He's facing Wazian. Latam versus NA in what could be a deciding fight for Altanawe.
Dritway does come in, and that's one massive boat, but the Cataclysm does as well. Jarvan falling right after that, and the Mordekaiser is making his way through that backline, serving bonks and smashes left and right, taking down Wazian even further, and that could be the savior for Altanawe, but I'm worried about Beta.
Well, just to finish, Altanawe's items were amazing. 3 items Zona, and not today for
Kaiser.
And now, the Nico 3 for Kess. We were worried about him. I think the lobby has to be worried about him now.
And 30 HP, still have a lot to work with. As many lives now, even in stage 5, could be up to 3 different lives. If he was on his last life, he faces that Exodia player, and suddenly you lose, you're out, you're very disappointed. In this case, Kess needs a big comeback. He's on 3 points. Eco 3, Taric 3. Will this be enough for the Japanese player to try and crawl his way back up to the middle of the pack at the end of this day 1?
And this shop says, call an ambulance, but not for me. The front line on Kess just got so much stronger. Does go up against Wazian, and Wazian, we were talking about it. He needs to find a way to stop the bleeding. The GP2 potential is there, but it hasn't come together yet. You can also see the Nautilus copies in the backline that would serve as a decent front line as well. But thus far, the Nautilus 2 is thinking so much in this fight here. Will fall eventually. And the backline is strong. The backline is alive for the Soraka board for Target.
Another one? Oh, barely didn't go through. Nico taken down.
Not going to be working out for Kess.
I do like the Wazian has the shallow isles rise, so the Nautilus ended up being very tanky, very annoying. Nautilus free for Wazian Iverson. It's going to be very stable. And whenever he dies, the Rise will resurrect him. So he's going to come back and just continue being annoying.
And we see the battle of the game plans where players are playing very high tempo, like Wazian, like Tex, are healthy, but now maybe starting to either lose fights or barely winning out these fights. On the flip side, players are playing for reroll strategies. They've hit, and now they are the monsters in these lobbies. Beta should be one of them, but he low-rolled the Ashes. He has a pivot into a kind of a tempo game plan with Xayah and Karma instead. She only has 1 item.
Let's see if Beta can stop the bleeding somehow. Xayah in the backline is untouched, is protected by the front line, but Wazian on the other side. Pyhat, you were talking about it. That Nautilus, he just died, and he is instantly back. He has been revived, and it is so hard to do just anything against that board that he assembled. Beta is going to go out in 8th here as our first player, and Kess is going to find a little bit more luck against another player.
That's so disheartening. Everyone.
That's an Aatrox.
Okay, he.
Aatrox just said, please respect me. If I'm still alive, don't call the fight, makes.
In fairness, he got resurrected out of there. I didn't know he was going to be in there.
That was closer than I expected.
Never expect the Aatrox Inquisition makes. It's always a surprising one. Believe me, I'll know.
It's a shame for Beta because every reroller already hit, or at least is close to hit, and Beta was just got the short end of the straw. So there's no. I mean, this happens sometimes. But now, the entire lobby is so strong. Everyone just hit. And I really don't know. One fight, one small positioning mistake could be enough to actually go 7 from this lobby.
One thing we saw in that last fight with Wazian as well, the synergy between the Rai Shadows with Martyr especially is going to be so effective for all these fights in stage 5. But what's also so effective is hitting your upgrades when you need them. 3 items on Rek'Sai, 2 Rek'Sais in the shop.
Do you buy it?
The gold does come in, some sells, some tactical sales come through. Vel'Koz now going to be sitting at 2-star. You're probably going to abandon the idea of this Vel'Koz sitting only on 5 copies right now. Maybe level 8 is a little bit fake in this current position.
I'm pretty sure that he had more than 5. He had 2 Vel'Koz too, so...
He had to sell.
Anyhow, we're going to be seeing the board on the other side. He does have them in
On
there.
the board.
He
All
sold
right.
another unit. I'm happy to report that my eyes are not deceiving me. And he is going to be able to make that Vel'Koz. He sold something else. It was a very fast switcheroo.
Is the Rek'Sai enough? The Rek'Sai is currently alive, but taking lots of damage from the Kai'Sa. And despite the upgrade, despite the debate, both on myself and maybe some players in the lobby as well, Tex takes a hit. He's down to 10. Huey still at 10, but survived this last fight. And Kess, despite hitting Taric and Nico 3, cannot really make it work.
And Kess, look at the matchups. He's gonna play either Tex Summers or Hui, and maybe few lorals he'll fight Hong Liang. But this is gonna be probably the most important match, the most important fight that we're gonna have to see, because that determines whether you go 5th or you go 7th.
He's on 3 points. If he gets another 7th here, this is going to be very hard to climb back with the cutoff tomorrow being top 8, 25% of the field only advancing to that final lobby.
And this is the fight that it is going to come back to. On the other side is Hong Liang with the strategist board, with the Slayer spat, with that fully decked out Mordekaiser on the right side and the Azir on the left. Can the Nico do enough here to try and take down that board? So Raka avoids that Cataclysm. Sky Strike is going to go into the backline, but not cause much damage. We're on a Targon board after all. But check out the damage of that Mordekaiser. Gonna take down Kess. Tex also fallen though, so both of these players will be going out here in 7th and 6th.
Atenao is still alive, keeping the hopes of Laptam.
I'm so sad.
For now, at least,
I'm
by a
so
hat.
sad after that.
He's in 5th, he has 10 points. He has obviously a much better position than Kess does, but he was contested on so many of these units. We mentioned Hong Liang being a player that hit those upgrades very early, made it so much harder for us than now to hit the Mordekaiser 2 even. He lost so much HP in the process, and now is sitting on a singular life with some very strong players left alive.
I do like to just result. I don't know if that's the correct word, but just talk about the Sona. As the way that, as you said in the past, he was contesting, he was holding hands. He may have never hit the Mordekaiser.
Oh,
and he has
but
a
he's back.
duplicator, Queen free. Now he has placed it so well. Altenawe is back. That's all I'm saying. And a 3-star Queen, a 3-star Sona, both of them fully itemized, a Morde 2, just to top things off. I mean, this board is really, really strong.
This board is really, really strong, but the only thing that makes me flinch is that J41. If you're looking at it, he's obviously decked out. He has great items. Protector's Vow, it has been nerfed a little bit. Well, a lot, but still, it's a good item to get out early casts there from the J4, and you're going up against the guy that you wish you were. The Mordekaiser on the other side is one full unit, and you're hoping that your J4 can somehow lock him down. It will be enough on the Azir on the left-hand side. The Quinn trying to do as much as possible to save Altenawe, and it is going to be possible. Huey on the left side also holding on, knocking out Han Xing.
The battle of the Kai'Sas on that left side. So cool to see the Cathian Rain coming in as if they were 1v1ing. In the end, Huey able to survive that fight, able to make it into this top board, which is his game plan when he's playing something like Ornn. He wants to play fast, high-tempo boards in stages 2, 3, and 4, preserve a lot of HP, and just crawl, sneak his way into that top 4 just barely to get those points online for day 1.
And he's been doing a great in day 1 so far, but now we're probably going to see maybe 1, maybe 2 players trying to dying right now. Altenawe against Wei Shen.
And Wei Shen did hit Gangplank 2 in a few rounds to go.
He also has that Rice still on board. Thankfully for everyone else in this lobby, it is a Rice 1, and it is going to get taken down here at the start. But is it enough to do anything else? The big Sky Strike from the Quinn here, but it's not going to be anything useful for Altenawe down in 4th. We take those, I think, in a different matchup. Maybe he could have lived a little bit longer. Wei Shen has come back with a vengeance and is very strong.
As he was trying to ramp up, but also Wei Shen was at the peak of the power. Also, Hong Liang lost against Hui, so a guy who made the strategist Mordekaiser, something that we've been actually surprised about. He may not go 2nd, he may go 3rd at this point.
Hong Liang and Hui on their last lives. China, NA, and OCE fighting for their tournament lives in this game 3, trying to rack up these points. Wei Shen hands on his head once again, hoping the GP will do enough. The Kai'Sa starts off strong with the Cathian Rain, but only onto the front line for now. The front line is very quickly melting. It's happened at every fight we spectated onto Weijin. So much damage on his board, and once again, it's only the Kaisa and the Quinn left alive. I don't think they can do it alone. A massive hit for Huey here. Gonna be the guaranteed third place finisher with such a... Oh, never mind. Hong Lian took an even bigger hit down to -10. Weijin, Iverson